The change-o-matic gears are clean and now going back together. Well, just to kind of show you, I'm watching as I put this together, that G Hosties or Ghosties. Man, his is step by step, and just ran into a snag, and I'm glad I watched, because I would have stuck it on there wrong. But now here we go. One of the things I've noticed is that I was missing one of these quarter-inch, quarter 20 bolts. This one's a little thicker than the other ones. You kind of see. So I'm going to use this thick one until I can find the right one. But this came from, it's got the little shoulder on it like the other one, but it came from a from my Atlas lathe. Now, during this reassembling process, everything's getting a light coat of oil, but once I get everything together, I'll put grease on those gears. Like I said, that's looks like a champ. Once again, this is historic, guys, with parts going back together, which is a great and wonderful thing. Everything needs to be lubricated because it's all been degreased, so there's no lubrication or protection on it. So make sure we get this all lubed. Now, this is the old plunger, and I had forgotten that I had bought a new one, so later on I changed it to the new one. In a couple places where there are holes, but you know it doesn't need to be painted, I take a drill bit and get the paint out. Alright, some of you may remember when I pulled this out of here, this is what the back looked like. Well, I got on eBay and found out the real piece. Now, it's not perfect, but it's better than this. And I'll continue to look, but this one's really good shape. So let's get this thing on. Right here, there's a fiber washer that was supposed to go on here that I forgot, but later on I took it back apart and then put that back on as well. So let's slide this into here. Oh, now we got to pull the plunger back and let it fall into a groove, and let it fall in there. Swing it around here and get this pin in. Let's see if this is the big or the small side. Big. Coming from the bottom. It won't fit, so we know big going there. Now we need to go this big. Nope, this is. Alright, so this goes to here. And I've lubed this thing up as well. Well, boys and girls, I think we have a little bit of an issue here. Just taking a look at it, the looks like the pin might be a little further back on this one, so I might have to put this on the lathe and take a little bit of stuff off of it. So let's see if that one, yeah, that one lines right up. This one needs a couple of thousandths off of there. Probably 10 thousandths, maybe 20. Well, I thought I was going to get a little piece together today, real quick. Well, I got to learn that there's no such thing as real quick in restoration. After several trips to the lathe, it fits. one of the things I didn't know is that this little turnbuckle type of thing was brass, polished up nice. And this little piece too, put it on the buffer and got the little rust off of it. Looking good. Trying to figure out, I know one of the things is that this one goes into here with these two 64 that is, tooth gears on it. So I'm going to put that on there. Make sure we get it oiled up. I think I might be missing a piece. When I say missing, I just mean might be in another batch of stuff. Yep, there we go. Alright, I took a look at it and that is the way it goes. So that's going to sit there. Yeah, so that's the way that goes there with this out here. Here we go. And now I can put, let's see, let's do with, let's get this on first. Okay, so let's find, that looks, okay, so that goes in that way. And let's find a big one on this one, there and there. Okay. Kind of went in real easy. Too easy. Now that I know that a spacer is missing, I'm going to measure that up so I can make one. So let's take this back apart. Alright, now we got to get some measurements. When I take a real good look at that, it's kind of interesting in the sense that I can see where the old one was, so I can kind of get the one measurement I know I'm going to need here. This ½ inch. Dead on ½ inch. This one is just shy of this, which is 880, so probably about, let's see, let's take it in here and see. So that rub mark on there where the old bushing was, well, let's take it apart and show. Yeah, I can see where the wear mark is on there. It gives a good little place to measure. Doesn't have to be dead on, but that'll get me close. Alright, that's about 5/16. So here's what we gotta make. We gotta make that bushing. Just looking at what where these marks line up on here, this little what is this one, 3/4 will be perfect. So I'll make it out of this 3/4. Alright, let's try to get this thing back together again. So let's see, this goes here like that, and goes in there like here's the part I made. Get out a little bit of some lube there. Okay, I think I'm going to address this thing here where it's been brazed. It's really not supposed to be brazed on there. So I think I'm going to make a little mandrel, put it on the lathe, turn that smooth, which will release this bearing that's in there. So I think I'll give that a shot. So in the meantime, I go ahead and grab other parts that need to be cleaned. These are the non-painted parts. However, I realize there's a couple of things that do need to get stripped and painted. I was always concerned about this transmission, and that's kind of why I waited a little later on to work with it, but time to get it cleaned up, taken apart, and inspected. As I get further into this transmission, I realize that it's full of grease and full of chips. So before I fill this thing up with mineral spirits, I try to get as much of that grease and junk out of there as I possibly can. In order to get one of the screws in the bevel gear out, I had a gasket scraper that fit right in the slot of that screw, and I was able to get it out. But there are things on here that are not in the drawing. I don't know that right now, but it's a homemade part that I have to try to get off now.
From 325 AD.
Now I'm trying to get all the gunk between the gears out of here, and as I get it cleaned up, I realize the gears are slightly chewed up. They mesh, but they're still chewed up, and I get in there with a file and spend a couple hours and get that cleaned up as well. Now that all the chips are out of it, it moves pretty smoothly. However, there's a lot of wiggle down in that one there. We can see that back on the back of here. There's a lot of play in that. So I was thinking about just making a new rod here, but I don't know if that's round. So I think I'm going to try to order some bushings and you know, brass bushings or oil light bushings and put it in there and see if that can fix it. Guess onward with the cleaning process. Now what you're seeing is the quick view, but it takes me a while to get these things apart, find the right wrenches, etc., and get everything cleaned up. And once I get things cleaned up, a trip over to the buffer really makes things look nice. Now this handle on the knee was dirty, but most of the chrome is flaking off of it, so I decided I'm going to just take the chrome off. Well, I'm going to take off that chrome and chrome paint it. So I started with the wire wheel, but then I decided to chuck it up in the lathe and use sandpaper. And I thought I could get all the chrome off, but I didn't. But all the loose stuff is gone, and it is at least smooth now. Now remember, all the castings are clean and painted, but now that they're ready to have their things put back on, those things need to be cleaned up at least and polished. Talk about tedious, cleaning all the hardware. Holy smokes, is that tedious. Once again, I thought I was done with painting, but I forgot there was a lot of little pieces, I should say about 5 little pieces, that needs to be stripped, cleaned, and painted.
I have to admit, I am kind of surprised at how well a lot of these parts cleaned up.
Just chuck that up in the lathe, kind of polish that a little bit, and now it slides on there nicely.
Now what I didn't show was those two parts were frozen together. I had to press it apart and get them polished and cleaned up so they fit back together nicely.
Talk about scoring another grand slam. Looked like my headstock here was missing. There's only two of these, and so for just one side. Well, sure enough, I got for a 618 headstock, looks like these will fit it. So I'm gonna knock these out and get them cleaned up and put on there.
I got the pulley gear fixed and back together. Now for those of you who can count, you can see there's more dust covers down there than I thought. I didn't have any missing, I just had them in a different bag. And now it's time to install the dust shield with the key up. And here once again is a piece of that pop can aluminum that's the right size to knock the dust shields into place. Now I get the bearing lubed up into place and time to get the other dust cover on. Now it's important on this dust cover to get the slot there where the Gets oiler slot is. And now we'll tap it into place. And now I realize my order of operations is probably a little off, because now I have to try to figure out how to get this inside one in with that other one in place already. But I figure out a workaround.
Well, that one was a little bit of a chore, but we got her in. So I'm going to follow instructions from here. I got background here. Let's see what we got. There we go. That's the one I'm going to follow. Mr.
Hi everybody, this is the reassembly video of my little Atlas horizontal milling machine.
There we go. I'm going to follow that, put this thing back together.
I don't know if some of you guys experience this, but once I do some of the editing and realize all the work I did and it was a pain, it's kind of painful to watch some of the steps that I've taken, and that, you know, I kind of blocked it out of my mind at how hard it was to do certain things. There are so many times that I had to assemble and then disassemble this to get it right.
Alright, that kind of knocked that one out of there. Oh my goodness. And the dust covers are off again. Okay, I was able to get it on there with everything in place here. Except now I need to get the bearing and the dust cap on the back part. So we'll get that on there and color it. Get this on here. It's going to take a little light gentle taps. Keep this down on here so this stuff doesn't go cattywampus. And we'll be good to go. Just going to take this and gently tap it. Better get something else. Oh, looks like it's going down with just me pushing on it. Use that now with this. Little gentle love taps. There we go. Right. Alright. Line that back up with that Gibbs oiler hole.